Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we are going to start, Madam and Mr. County Attorney, with the reasonable opportunity to be heard, correct? Do we have any cards? I don't have any with me right now, so.
We don't have any here.
Okay. All right, so we're going to, in an abundance of, since it is the government efficient transparency, we are going to open it up for the reasonable opportunity to be heard. So if you'd like to speak, coming up, give us your name and address for the record and give us your opinion in a short, succinct, and concise manner, which means 2 minutes. So, is there anybody that would like to speak? Come on up. We'll take some words from the administration. You don't have to fall within the 2-minute period, but thank you.
Carla Denise Edwards, Chief Administrative Officer, representing our honorable, esteemed Mayor Cava. And I would just like to thank you and thank the chair for establishing this committee. As you know, the portfolio of departments that I'm responsible for include strategic procurement, OMB, ISD, which is now PIOD, et cetera. And there is huge opportunity for us to be as efficient as possible, streamlined as possible, and as Commissioner Cohen-Higgins likes to say, move at the speed of business. And so we reviewed the agenda, and we are looking forward to any discussion associated with those items and ways in which we can support this committee and the initiatives that are put forth. There are many things that are underway, everything from the improvements that we've made in the Inform system and streamlining that process, all the way to reducing the amount of time that it takes for us to fulfill a procurement and to complete that. And so we'll look for any other opportunities that come from this committee and work respectively with you and the commissioners to execute. So thank you.
Thank you, Madam CAO, for those words. At this point, if nobody else has chosen to speak, we are going to close the reasonable opportunity to be heard, and we are going to move on with setting the agenda. And one of the things I'm going to reserve my comments till we get to discussion. So we're going to set the agenda, deal with the agenda first, and then come back to the discussion, and I'll say some welcoming words. Okay?
Mr. Chair, so I just want to note that as noted on the changes memorandum, the prime sponsor of 2B is requesting deferral of that item until the April meeting of this committee or the next available committee meeting of this committee thereafter. Unless the board wishes to proceed, otherwise that item would be deferred at the setting of the agenda. And there is also a scrivener's error for item 2C in the second whereas clause. The references to millions of dollars should have been to billions. With those changes, a motion to set the agenda is in order.
Okay, there was a motion by the Vice Chairman, Commissioner Cabrera, and seconded by Commissioner Cohen-Higgins. I don't think we have, no one has any objection to the deferral. We can do that by consensus at the study of the agenda. So if that's the case, all in favor, do we need a roll call for this? No, right? All in favor say aye. 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 Okay, let the record reflect that it is unanimous. Now, would anybody like to bifurcate any of the items?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I have amendments to my 2 items. They're really quick if the attorney can read them.
Okay.
We just passed them out too.
Commissioner Regalado moves to amend item 2E to clarify that the subsequent status reports required in Section 4 of the resolution shall initially be provided within 365 days of the effective date of the resolution, and then every year thereafter.
Okay, that's one of them. And that is on item 2E, correct?
Yes. And the second amendment?
Go ahead. The other one's 2F, and then we'll see if anybody has any comments, queries, or concerns.
Second item is 2F. Commissioner Regalado moves to amend item 2F. The proposed amendment modifies Section 1 of the resolution to change the minimum number of reviews the commission auditor shall perform on pre-qualification pools from no less than 1 year, then no less than 1 review per fiscal year to no less than 3 reviews per fiscal year. Therefore, on page MDC 005, the last sentence of section 1 is amended to read as follows. Within 30 days of the effective date of the resolution, the commission auditor shall disclose to the board how many reviews it can perform on an annual basis, but in no event shall the commission auditor perform less than 3 reviews per county fiscal year.
Thank you.
Okay, we're aware of the two amendments. Obviously, let's give our colleagues a chance to review it. If anybody wants to bifurcate it for further discussion, then let's go ahead and bring it up now. Yep, go ahead, Mr. Vice Chair.
I just had a quick question for Commissioner Regalado. I guess why from 1 to 3? I guess, is it trying to do it more I guess it's not quarterly quite, but like sort of.
Right, so his request was 1, but when I went through all the pools that we have and the ones that we've been adding, I think it's better to have more than just 1. So we talked about it, and that's what his staff can accommodate. But the initial request, when we had the first Sunshine meetings, was 1.
Okay. Commissioner Cohen-Higgins.
Through the chair, thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is similar, since we're on 2F. So here's question number 1. Is there any value minimums to the pools that are going to be audited, right? So we have 200 plus pools. Some of them are very, very large in size, and some of them are smaller in size. Are you and the co-sponsors indifferent to the size of the pools? You just want truly random audits, or does it make?
Initially, we wanted truly random audits because I think if we set a cap, then you have the propensity of those that are not within that cap to believe that they're not going to be audited. So I did this at the school board. I mean, the idea of the random audits is that it keeps everybody honest because you don't know where it's going to fall. Obviously, the ones that have the larger amounts have more scrutiny from staff. So I have found in the past that eliminating the smaller ones, sometimes where you find things are in the smaller ones because people don't pay as much attention to them. So I would prefer to keep it all random. If you guys want, to change that, I'm open to that. But the idea, look, I'm a big fan of pools. I found them to work when I did the bond at the school board. We could not have done the work without the pools. As we have discussed, the pools are constantly bringing in new businesses. And they work much faster than the RFPs. And there is accountability in terms of the change orders and the timing, because if you don't finish your project on time, you don't go back in the pool. So it really does incentivize people to stay on budget and stay on time, and it allows us to move these projects faster. So I'm a big proponent of the pools, and when we had our Sunshine meetings, and I want to thank the chair for his help on this. One of the things that we talked about with him and with Commissioner Garcia was how do we expedite this? How do we get out of 2 or 3 years, of an RFP and a bid protest? And there's actually more of these items. The mayor asked me to hold back a few more as a result that we're working on, that were a result of the Sunshine meetings. So there's 2 more items, and we need to have another Sunshine meeting to finalize the other ones. But these are the ones that the administration was okay with and they didn't need more time on. And I think that they're a very good start in terms of streamlining everything.
Thank you for that. And through the chair, there is the audit that was done by our commission auditor rather recently that I believe was sponsored by you, Commissioner, regarding our office supplies. And I bring that up because I know that our commission auditor did an exceptional job on that. It was very, very deep dive, very, very thorough. And it brought to everyone's attention a lot of things that were worthy of being, of coming to light. My question is, with 3 annually, I know it took the commission auditor over a year for that 1 audit. Now we're imposing an obligation to do 3 audits per year. Is the expectation that the audits are as in-depth as the office supplies audit was? And if so, do they have the bandwidth to do 3 audits per year at that level?
Right. So we did talk to them about that. Obviously, the office supply one was more complicated because it involved physical inspections, and there was a lot of misinformation, and there wasn't enough data on informs. One of the items that we already approved at the board is putting everything on informs. So now that we have everything on informs, we're not going to have the paper trail that was part of the problem that we had with the office supplies. So there's a lot that we learned from the office supply issue. And we've been correcting some of those, but that one was unique because it involved a physical inventory of a county asset. This is going to be, all the paperwork's going to be on Informs. It's going to be something that you can, download and put it on Excel spreadsheet. And we did talk to him about the 3, and he says that he can do the 3.
Great, nothing further. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, just go ahead, Mr. Butcher.
Well, I guess it's good that now we'll have Informs informed.
Yeah.
But I just did want to give a shout out to the commission auditor and his team. Sometimes they're unsung heroes, but they really do a great job.
I love Yenka. I tell him all the time, we love you, Yenka. You do great work.
We love you, Yinka.
We do, Yinka. Well, on that note, 2 things, Commissioner Regalado. Number 1, I appreciate, we're going to go ahead. Go ahead, Ms. Edwards.
Carla Denise, through the chair. One of the things that we would love to be able to do is work collaboratively with the commission auditor. It is typically customary when an audit is done that the audit is presented to the subject. The subject has a chance to write a management letter or response. And
What
then
fun
they
would that be?
ensure that there are no errors, as we did discover, and you very eloquently described the complications with the previous audit. So we would just propose a friendly amendment or addition that any of the audits are actually presented to the administration, that their opportunity to respond and include a management letter and work through the issues is part of the process, which is typically a process in an audit that occurs.
I appreciate that, but I'm going to take a pass. The whole purpose of this is to have accountability that comes directly to the board. And look, we share stuff with the administration all the time, but we're the ones that approve procurement. And when we find that there's errors, and we're doing the training and we're doing our best, but unfortunately, housed within the administration is where the error occurred. So it is natural the inclination of the administration to rectify the error before it comes before the BCC. And if that happens, we don't get to course correct. We don't get to see how things went sideways and what we can do from the policy perspective to make sure that it doesn't happen again. It is a somewhat painful process, but I think it's a necessary one. We're only talking about 3, but I think in order to have the checks and balances and the accountability, I think the auditor works for us. We get the information. He does a good job. Yes, there were some disagreements about the office supply one. But again, I think most of those disagreements were about the physical state of things and the paper trail. You guys run Informs. It is your system. He's going to be getting data from Informs. So unless the input is wrong on Informs, right? I don't see where there would be a problem.
Commissioner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not the sponsor of this item, and so it will be up to the 3 sponsors on whether or not they're going to accept that friendly amendment. I would only add that I think it's a good idea to the sponsors. Here's the reason why, because I think the collaboration with the administration helps. There may be pieces that our auditor may be missing that they could provide clarification on, that would provide the board with a more comprehensive approach. And my fear is that without the opportunity for them to review the reports and just provide any feedback, that they might, what I don't want to create is an adversarial, somewhat combative feel or tone between the administration and the Board of County Commissioners. And so I would think that was a good idea, even if the sponsors disagree. And to the administration, you'll know when you're being audited, so you would be able to provide your own report, right? And that's what I think we wouldn't want to do, is have these kind of competing reports, but rather collaborate and provide one final report. But I think it would be fair to have the administration weigh in when they're being audited, the same way that any audit is run. The actual entity being audited has the opportunity to respond. And so those are my 2 cents, but it's ultimately up to the sponsors. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, if we could have Yinka come up so he could talk about it. I think, we're talking about the work that he's doing with his staff.
That'll be fine.
And there is collaboration. So, there is a lot of opportunity for that already. But Yinka's coming down to give us his 2 cents on this. Thank you, Yinka.
Yinka, I was going to call you up. While you come down, let me just say a couple of things, Ms. Denise. So you also I don't necessarily, two things. First of all, I am a co-sponsor of this item, but I just saw the amendment, which, moving forward, I would like to get these amendments a little bit earlier, Commissioner Regalado, just so we have a chance to review. Would be
we can't.
appreciated. Well, okay, then if you're gonna, but if you know it's coming, then try to make the item as tight as you can. Second of all, I would tell you, the second thing I would say is, Yinka's here, and I want to make sure, and I'm sure that that's the case. The way this item reads, perform less than 3 reviews. So now you're up here, you might as well tell us what you actually think is feasible or not. I will say this, Ms. Denise, I'm not necessarily against making it available, but I do, because I agree with Commissioner Cohen-Higgins on that, but I agree with Commissioner Regalado on something else. Traditionally, I'm not saying traditionally, in the past, the delays have come when time has been given to get back to us, and it's taken too long. And I don't think that's what we want. If we're going to be efficient, if that information is provided, then to convince me that it's going to be efficient, it would have to require some sort of timeline specifically to get back to us. Because what I would hate to see is what we've seen in the past, which is, reports that are from the year 2021 coming up in the year 2025. And that's what I think, if we're going to be efficient, right, which is our goal, we need to avoid. So anyways, Yinka, go ahead.
Through the chair, we have worked with Commissioner Regalado through the sunshine, and we find it feasible for us to complete the recommended amount of audits for those pools. The supplies report was somewhat different because we had to do an expanded scope. We had to create an expanded scope going into financials, going into physical inventory, going into operations and systems. In this case, we'll be looking specifically at the procurement side of the audit of the pools. So we're comfortable, have no concerns about that. On the collaboration front, I think you said it very well. Because our office reports to the board, we have a priority to get the reports to the commissioners or the sponsor very quickly. And in some cases, the administration may need more time to respond. Now, there is no scenario where we present a report to the board that hasn't been provided to administration for a response. And in some cases, this is months before the final report is compiled. So we have our notice of inquiry where we share every observation. We collaborate with them. It's been, very friendly for the most part. And we wait for a response. So every report goes through a process where they're notified. Sometimes there's hurdles with the response time, right? And we've worked collaboratively with the administration on that too, because they may ask for extension that may be outside of my purview because the commissioner of the item wants the report for a legislation or for presentation. So I don't have the flexibility in some cases to hold the report while the sponsoring commissioner waits for it.
Okay. I understand that. So,
Mr. Chair.
go ahead.
Yeah, and thank you, Yanka, for that. And I think it's important for everyone to understand that you do share the work product with the administration before it comes to this board, because I think it sounded like it didn't. The amendments that I'm making now, if I could make them sooner, and that's the problem with having co-sponsors, is that we would have to have a sunshine meeting every time that we have these changes. But I did meet with the mayor and the administration on all these items, and they asked me to delay some of the other items because Namita has been out, her mom passed away, and we're working on different things. So I am anything but unreasonable, and you could have mentioned this then, right? So if we're going to get into how we're doing this, and I'm happy to discuss it from now to when this goes to the board. But I just don't want to create another obstacle that may result in delay. We're only talking about 3 audits. We're talking about 3 audits of pools. Everything is going to be on informs. There's nothing to hide here. Yes, the office supply report was painful, but for the record, when we passed that item, I predicted everything that was going to happen because of the lack of just scrutiny that the item, was presenting to the board. I said it at the time. I'm going to audit this, So I think we're in a very different space right now And I think that the current setup works, but I'm happy to discuss it with the administration from now to when this goes to the BCC.
Why don't we do this? Because obviously this is going to be heard if it moves forward. And it will give you a chance to discuss it with Commissioner Regalado and other sponsors, co-sponsors. Because I don't think we're going to necessarily.
Not acceptable.
You didn't accept the amendment. I don't think any of the other co-sponsors are, but that doesn't preclude us from, when we get to the full Board of County Commissioners, to consider it. So, you've heard my 2 cents on it, and we can find a happy medium. I think it's always better. But Commissioner Cohen-Higgins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for clarification, and I appreciate our chairman allowing this conversation to take place so that everyone is on the same page. The administration asked for an opportunity to collaborate on the reports. That request was rejected. We passed, but then our commission auditor came and said, we always collaborate with the administration on these reports. So I'm confused as to what it is that you all are asking for that seems to already be happening, that was rejected. I'm not sure that I'm on the same page here, because if our commission auditor is saying, in order to prepare a report, I must speak with the administration, I must collaborate with them, that satisfies me, because then you have the opportunity to connect and to communicate. But then it makes me question what was rejected. Why is that being rejected by the sponsors if it's already happening? So to the administration, maybe I can have a little bit of clarity on what it is that you are requesting, because I'm not entirely clear at the moment.
Go ahead.
Through the chair. Thank you so much, Commissioner Cohen-Higgins. You actually said it better and more eloquently than I did, which is when an audit is typically done, the entity that's being audited has a chance to review and respond. In the auditing world, they call that a management letter. And so that management letter is typically attached to the audit that is then ultimately circulated. We actually do collaborate, and we talk, and we spend a lot of time together. I think our teams have a very good and respectful relationship. We have to provide information and data. We have to explain things. But there are often times when maybe the auditor may see something or have an interpretation that differs from management. It doesn't happen all the time. So that management letter would say we are in full support. We've provided this information. Great. It may say that there was a disagreement or miscommunication or interpretation. I actually really like Commissioner Bermudez's kind of split the baby, which is we all collectively should be held accountable for timelines. And I know for sure that the commission auditor has been put in a pickle when we have not delivered on time. So my suggestion would be there may be an opportunity to incorporate in there the time frame by which we do provide that response, and then if we fail to, he moves forward, period. And that would be, to me, a sufficient compromise.
Thank you for that explanation. And from my perspective, whenever these audits come to an agenda, and I look forward to them, I think it's a wonderful item, and I look forward to our commission auditor and the work that he's going to do. I'm going to ask for the management report. I'm going to ask for it. I'm not going to be able to make a decision or vote the item up or down until I hear from the administration and what their response is, because I don't want to do it for the first time on the microphone during a committee hearing. I want to be able to review it, digest it, and have a conversation about it before I'm on the microphone. So I will ask for it, and so hopefully you'll have an opportunity that route to be able to provide that letter and that response. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair.
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Regalado, and then let's wrap it up,
Thank you.
because we can talk about this as we move forward.
Yeah. Just I just want to clarify something, because I understand your point, but the way that I see it, the information is provided to you. There is collaboration, right? So, just to be clear, there is collaboration. There is back and forth. There's questions and there's responses. My sense of what you're requesting is a co-authorship, right? You want to participate in the authoring of the report that comes to the board. I understand you disagree with me, but here's the thing. The administration has the ability to put anything on the agenda. So whatever document that you have, just like you did, right? So when we had the audit on the office supplies, they put out a report and they said, we disagree, right? In fact, we got the report before the commissioners even got the item, because you got the item before we got the item, right? So your report actually preceded the item. So there is already a vehicle by which you can respond if you believe that something is egregious or that you have reached an impasse with the auditor. What I don't want to create is the requirement that as a part of these audits, he is held from bringing this to us because you have decided, that you need more time, or that you disagree with whatever conclusion he's made. These are two independent offices, right? And while we all work together to provide good government, there are times where we disagree, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's perfectly normal, right? So we can have a disagreement. You can issue your report. He can issue his audit, and the board can digest that and meet with the administration and come to a conclusion before we vote on it. So I think the item as drafted protects this board, protects the integrity of what we're trying to achieve. But again, I'm happy to further discuss it. But I think Yinka collaborates a lot, sometimes more than he needs to. And I think that we benefit from that, and that this item does respond to a lot of the issues that we've had in the past.
Okay, we're gonna move on this one way or the other, but I do want to tell you, Carla, and our CAO, and also to the attorneys, I probably will be discussing that with you because what I want is timelines even from the mayor's office. I want to be very clear. This is a collaborative effort between the administration and the legislative body, but there have to be timelines, because that to me has been one of the big problems we've had across the board. So I'm as a co-sponsor, I'm going to support it now. I don't think this is the time. Obviously, we'll have an opportunity to hear our other colleagues when this goes to the full Board of County Commissioners. But I want both the attorneys and you to know that I will be, because to me, I don't want delays from your side. As long as the attorneys can have enough legal sufficiency that we're comfortable. It may be 15 days, maybe 30 days. I don't know what the answer is. But I'm going to come back and talk to you about that, because I do have somewhat split sentiments on. I don't want anybody to get the impression that this effort to make some changes is limited to the legislative body. The mayor certainly is welcome. The WISE program is the WISE announcement. So, but the bottom line is we're here because we do want to make things more efficient. So let's move on so we can move this on to the next. So we have those two. Is there any other questions on those two amendments? And if not, is there anything anybody wants to bifurcate? Okay.
Move the items.
Okay, we'll move all the items
Amended.
except F1, which we're going to come back is going to be discussion. So moved by Commissioner Regalado. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Cohen-Higgins. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, let the record reflect it's unanimous. So now let's go to, I've held my just a couple of housekeeping and to hear from everybody. Obviously, let's begin by, I want to start by thanking the chairman, Chairman Rodriguez, for having the vision to create this committee and to tackle the efficiency and transparency in county government, which I think is important. I know that it's become somewhat popular at the national level, but I think we were talking about it, a number of us, when we got here 2 years ago, and some of you maybe even before we got here. And don't get scared by the acronym to the administration. It is GET, but it doesn't mean GET. So, and let's be where it's government efficiency and transparency in county government. Okay, I think the most important thing is that the chairman did listen to what we've all been saying. I think all of us collectively, which is we need a more efficient and modern government. And there's no doubt that all of us, and it's not limited to the ones that are up here, have been frustrated one way or the other with the way things have been going as far as timeline, as far as you can run from procurement to tech. We've had issues with that. So I want to thank all the committee members that are here today, and I want to give you a warm welcome. I know all of you have been vocal, just like I have, and that's a good thing, to have a more efficient and transparent government. And I hope that we will work together. And I want to be clear on two things, and this I'm going to channel my former founding mayor persona. Everybody's going to get a chance to speak, but we're going to do it respectfully and we're going to do it timely, whether it's from the audience or from our side. And I want to make sure that everybody understands that, and then we will make decisions. If we're not on the same page, that's okay. It'll go to the full body, and at that point, we'll make the decisions. But we are going to, part of being efficient is making decisions. So I want to be clear on that. I will listen thoughtfully, and we will all listen to each other thoughtfully and carefully, which is great. All the stakeholders, not limited to this body, including the county attorney's office, which many times your role is not to split the baby. As a lawyer, your role is to tell us what you think you should say from the legal perspective. Okay? One of the things I think we'd like to do, and I'm going to mention it when we get into discussion, is obviously I'd like to hear from not only the administration, which we will start with that, but also from the general public, and also from groups that are impacted by this that work with the county. So one of the things I'd like to do, talking to all of you, is eventually launch a website where our residents can send us comments on what they think can be more efficient in Miami-Dade County. If we're going to argue that we're trying to reform Miami-Dade County, there should be no issue with us listening to and letting the public know. Now, I know it's going to be a little difficult because sometimes it'll probably be something that some of those people may think we're a part of the problem, but I think it's probably one of the best ways to do it, having a website where they can let us know their comments and provide suggestions. We do it all the time. Somebody rides a bus, they have great suggestions. They can tell us exactly, because most of us, not all, because Commissioner Higgins is always on the bus or on the Metro Rail, and also Commissioner Regalado, but many others aren't. So, our goal is to make a difference in the way the county conducts its business and elevate the culture of county government. That can't happen if it's not part of the public. Obviously, it's going to take a collaborative, targeted, and sustained approach from the members of this committee to effectuate change. I think all of you have been trying to do that as part of the body, but now we have a golden opportunity to make those changes, or at least suggest those changes that develop items and directives for the administration to hopefully effectuate, and it'll come hopefully through the sponsorship of this committee. I want to say one thing that's really important to me. I know that we all have great ideas, all of us, but this is a we issue. This is not a me issue. It's not an I issue. So whatever comes out of this committee, hopefully, even if it comes from the three brilliant minds around me, or the one that's not here, it still goes forward as the collective decision of this body. We have a really rare opportunity to do something that probably hasn't been done in county government before, which is to weigh in on trying to see how we can be more efficient and more effective. So one of my goals, and I think our goal should be based on the timeline that we have for the budget, is to begin by having the departments make presentations. And I would hope that we can next month hear from at least 4 of those departments. Now, I want to be clear to the administration from my perspective, because I think it can't be a regular presentation where you tell us everything is beautiful under the sun. Okay? I think it's important that I'm really more interested, and I'll turn it over to my colleagues in a minute, learning about the metrics and the internal processes that we can improve in each department. So I hope that we can get at least 3 or 4 of those departments at the next meeting. And I'd rather do this first because of the budgeting cycle coming up, and then we can tackle other things at the same time or moving forward. But Ms. Denise, this is, I want to be clear. When we ask for presentation, at least from my perspective, the presentation can't be business as usual. Everything is wonderful. I think it has to be, this is the areas that we have some issues. I don't think most of us are aware of all the metrics you have. Metrics are a wonderful thing. You've heard me say it over and over. I think metrics are critical, but sometimes metrics could be just an excuse for business as usual. So I'm going to be very interested in listening to those metrics. I mean, whether it's how often do you clean a bridge at the airport, or how many potholes, how long does it take to fix a sidewalk, or maybe something that may deal with, septic to sewer. So that's my, at least the intent that I have, and I think that the chairman has entrusted us with. Again, it's not, and I want to repeat, this is not about, this is not about anybody being responsible and not doing things well. It's about how all of us can work to make Miami-Dade County more efficient and effective. So I'm going to turn it over now to my colleague, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and looking forward to serving on this committee. And I just want to say thank you for that little Easter egg you dropped in there about it being a golden opportunity as we are entering the golden age of America. Thank you.
Go ahead, Commissioner Regalado.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm excited. I think all of us have discussed this, and I know, for example, I requested an item because I was working on my departments, and Commissioner Cabrera is drafting something, so we run into each other all the time on the drafting. I think this is an opportunity for those of us that want to do this work to be able to do it in this setting without having to have a sunshine meeting. I will tell you, I'm working on some things for the departments that are under infrastructure, just because those are the ones that I know better, right? So one of the things that I would caution you that I think has been done in the past that didn't work was try to apply the same metric to every department. Just because there's departments that are different. So I think there is value in having those of us that have overseen some of these departments for a longer time. And that's similar to Commissioner Cabrera, all about going down there and spending a few hours and getting our hands dirty, provide some input as to where we can be more efficient, where we can be more effective. And look, the reality is, and I've said it a million times, I've talked about the constitutional officers, and I think we have to deal with that. I think we need to take on the letter that the sheriff brought. I'm working on some items that deal with that. That's something that we need to tackle. I think that this is the committee to have those conversations about the requests that are being made by the constitutional officers and to hear from staff on what their thoughts are. Before they come up with something that just is an ask for us to rubber stamp. But within our departments, there are things that we can change. And it does require a change in culture and maybe a shift, for some folks. I can tell you, for example, I've been requesting the digitizing of the permits, forever. We've all talked about it a million times. It would be life-changing for this county to do that. And I know that the administration is moving forward on that, but there's certain markers that would just save so much time and so much energy and would help us to cut a lot of the back and forth that takes up so much bandwidth and so much employee time. So I think that there's things there that we can talk about and items that we can bring. The question is, how do we want to do that? So I like the idea of the departments having presentations, but how are we going to effectuate it? I know that I'm working on some items for my department, but how are we going to effectuate that across the board in time for the budget? And how are we going to propose those changes? Because I think this is the opportunity for them to tell us, everything is great. That's going to happen. But look, everyone in Miami-Dade County is tightening their belt. Everyone is. Everybody is changing the way that they do things, and we should be no different. And I think we have a true opportunity to really focus on the regional services that we provide. And I've said it a million times, some things need to fall away. We created a lot of things post-pandemic because it was raining federal money. And there's a lot of positions here that are lovely. They have a very lovely social media presence. But I do not think that they provide services to residents. And our role here is to provide services to residents. So I think there's some things that have to be wrapped up and put away. And we have to go piece by piece and find that just because something existed for 10, 15 years doesn't mean that we need that to exist at this moment. There may be a better way to provide that service, and there may be a better system suited to provide that interaction. So I think we seriously need to have a conversation about what are the core services that we provide to our residents so that we can establish our priorities and then say beyond that, what are things that we're going to put on the table so that when we do have to make these difficult decisions, we at least have choices that we can make and not just live by the choices that are presented to us by the administration, who on many occasions has created the creatures that we are now asking to slay.
Yeah, let me just say one thing. What you're saying, one thing does not preclude the other. None of it keeps any of us from trying to bring about some of our individual ideas to move forward. And I do agree with you. And by the way, it's not a criticism of this administration. It's just what's been done for so many years. So I don't have a problem. I don't think there should be any sacrosanct issue that we cannot discuss. I think we owe it to the administration to be very honest and straightforward, to work together, and if there is an issue, be very clear where we're coming from. But I wanted to say just, it's important. I think that the strength of this committee as we take it to the full body will be as that we move forward, that we understand that whoever brings up the idea, and again, the four other individuals here are certainly more than prepared to be able to bring forward ideas, that we do it, understanding that our strength lies in being a group, or the strength lies in being on the same page. I know that, as a matter of fact, I think it's probably more important for the administration to see that we are moving forward as a group on a lot of these things, because then they'll understand that the votes are probably there as you move forward. But I agree with you that nothing, I think, by the way, by asking for the presentations, I'm not asking for the presentations. There's not going to be, I'm not going to ask you to, I told you before, and we'll talk about that between now and the next meeting. My idea is not to talk about the, this is how the department does, blah, 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 blah. And by the way, on the metrics, no, absolutely all departments shouldn't have the same metrics. There's a total difference from, I'll take one that's, I know we're going to be talking about soon, which is there's a big difference between public works and transportation. It's two totally different things to a certain extent. They're somehow connected, but they're not the same thing. And if an experiment doesn't work, then it's time to look at it another way. I'll go back to my mayor days. If you have a July 4th parade and a July 4th event, but nobody's going to the July 4th parade, then why spend money on the July 4th parade and focus on the July 4th event? Those are the type of things that can only happen when a government looks at the way things are being done. In order to do that, you have to have true metrics. And I want to be very clear to everybody that works at the county. This is not about criticizing any particular individual, director, mayor, commissioner, you go down the list. It's about being more effective and efficient. So I don't want people to think that this is just a matter of, it is the GET committee, but it's not the gotcha committee, okay? So I want to be clear that our goal is that. And if the goal is we have to be more efficient by doing X, Y, and Z and getting rid of something, then I think that frank discussion should occur. So I want you, because I think we're all saying the same thing, but I don't want it to be perceived as we're asking for a report to be adversarial. I'm going to be asking for you guys to give us a report to see how you're functioning. And I want to hear the ideas from this commission as to how you could be more efficient and effective. And maybe the answer is you're doing everything right. Maybe the answer is no, you're not doing everything right. And then we go from there. But anyways, Carla, go ahead.
So, thank you, Chair. I would like to first compliment you for thinking about this so broadly. One of the things that happens when you ask us for reports is you force us to look at things, and I think Commissioner Regalado said it very, very well, which is, you can't possibly know what's going wrong if you're not looking at it, and the audit and the ability to do that helps us tremendously. We use that information to create process improvements. A result of the audit that was done on the office supplies was us automating things that had not been automated, fixing equipment that had been broken. So we did incredible work as a consequence of that, or a result, I should say, of that audit that has made things incredibly efficient. And so we're not upset by any stretch. We actually welcome the opportunity to do that. If you have an idea of which departments that you'd like for us to focus on, we can meet either now or later, because I really do want our teams to be able to give you something that is useful, that not only reflects the areas we're struggling with, but the improvements that we've made as a request of this body.
I do, actually, and I'm going to tell you the first four. I want to point out something, though. Just because there's a report and we listen to it, it's not going to preclude for us from coming back and making other suggestions, reference those departments moving forward. I chose to the four that I think would be very important to start with is obviously procurement, small business development, RER permitting, and DERM. And if we could, we can certainly talk about how we'll make those presentations efficient and effective. But I do want to tell my colleagues that I know we don't have a magic wand. So if we could, we won't be limited to making suggestions just at the meeting where the presentation is made. I don't want you to, because for purposes of dealing with issues on the budget, that could be the case. But moving forward, there might be other things that we'd like to add to that would deal with those departments, you know. And I go back to what I said originally. I do want to hear from the people of Miami-Dade County. I do want to hear from stakeholders, whether it be the Builders Association of South Florida, the LBA, whether it be trade unions, whether it be, truthfully, some of the economic development engines of the county. You know, this should not be limited to just the legislative body and the administration. You know, good ideas can come from anywhere. You know, sometimes, you know, when my kids were small, they had some great ideas that was amazing to me. So anybody can have a good idea. So we can't limit ourselves. So I just wanted to make sure that you get an opportunity to at least let us know where we're at, and we can go from there. And that'd be the start, because out of fairness to, look, I think there's no doubt that all of us, and I want to go back to one other thing, which Commissioner Regalado mentioned, what I think all of us have talked about before. Culture is very hard to change, but truthfully, governments have culture, families have culture, churches have culture, countries have culture, and it can change. You know, if you go back, and there's a great book, by the way, because you know I love to read, but there's a great book called Culture Matters, which is different essays on cultures. And one of the things, the country of South Korea was probably one of the poorest countries in the world in 1946. And today, it's probably one of the most vibrant economies worldwide. Just across 90 miles, what was then the Republic of Cuba was probably a country that had the second highest per capita income in the Americas, higher than even some European countries after World War II. But look at where it is today. So culture can change. There's no doubt. And government should play a role if it can. But the way government plays a role is by changing the rules, changing the incentives, incentivizing people. And as you mentioned, as Commissioner Cohen-Higgins has said, work at a speed that is effective, not at a speed that we traditionally have worked at. You've heard me complain about, and Namad has heard me 10,000 times complain about the speed of procurement in this county. You know, by the time sometimes we make these decisions, the technology has changed. And then we're faced with making those decisions. So I don't want anything off the table, but I just want to make sure that for us to have a productive discussion, everybody knows where we're trying to go. Go ahead, Commissioner Regalado.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I really appreciate that. The only suggestion that I would make is I think we have to separate the enterprise funds from the non-enterprise funds. So RER is an enterprise fund, water and sewer is an enterprise fund, the airport, the port. I think those are kind of separate because whatever we fix, it all goes back in. So I appreciate the RER and RER and Durham are obviously together, and we've been working on several things. But my request would be before we bring them in, IT and what used to be ISD, which is now called like PO'd or something. It used to be GSA. It keeps changing the name. But IT and ISD jam us up a lot. So I would request kind of looking at those also as we get into, because what you're going to find is a lot of back and forth on that in terms of things that we want to do in some departments and how it's been outsourced to the other departments and how those departments are taking, so I would.
I'm not against that suggestion. The reason, and I'll take it, but I would like this. These 4 departments were chosen because these are departments that, at this point, provide services directly to the public,
Yes.
one way or the other. So I understand the differentiation. And I think we're going to hear from all of them. And trust me, I agree with you on IT. Just be clear. So, but I would like to start with these four because these are the four that are providing critical services right now. And we're going to have opportunities. I think we're going to end up meeting probably more than expected, certainly before the budget.
Mr. Chair, I would just say, and if we're going to do RER in Durham, we probably need to have IT here because it's going to come up again and again and again.
We can ask the administration to have IT here, even though they're going to have their day in the sun.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And one of the things I would say, if we want to talk about efficiency, that tends to be, I love you, Namita, but that tends to be somewhat inefficient at times, is procurement. And I think that one of the things we should definitely explore, because I've heard from all different sorts of folks, is that some while ago, places like the airport, handled their own procurement to make it a little bit more, it's a different sort of animal. So it's about making sure that the folks that are doing, procuring pencils is not the same as terminals. Jackson does a very good job. They do their own procurement. So maybe that's a model that we should look at, as they tend to be very efficient.
Go ahead, Commissioner Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to our Vice Chair Cabrera for bringing that up. Since we're having the discussion, we are actually working on that item. Procurement used to be at the airport, and then it was removed from the airport, and I think that there's a lot of utility to bringing it back to the airport. But separate and apart from procurement, just to share an idea, when you speak with Namita about efficiencies that can be created in her department and at procurement, ask her to bring the binder that is the rules and regulations and ordinances and resolutions that she and her department must follow on every single procurement. These are rules and regulations and ordinances that we as a body have passed, i.e. not the people sitting here, but those that have sat here currently and in years past. And they are bootstrapped by a ton of red tape created by us, right? So as we continue to pass resolutions and continue to send directives and continue to demand reports, we are demanding more red tape and creating a bit more bureaucracy from the administrative level. And we need to consider that as well. What can we do as lawmakers to cut the red tape on the administration's end so that they can be more efficient? Efficiency doesn't always and necessarily and only mean cutting dollars and cents. It means process and procedure and cutting red tape. So in this committee, I'm grateful to our Chairman Rodriguez for creating it. I'm grateful to our Chairman Bermudez for leading it, and our Vice Chairman and my colleagues. I look forward to the work that we are going to do. But I think a lot of the work is going to be with us as well, figuring out what I call the purge, and we're working on that as well. I know that I think it was either Commissioner Higgins or someone else brought an item that kind of purged the number of resolutions that were kind of weighing the administration down. That sort of analysis needs to happen in a lot of departments when we take a deep dive and look at the amount of rules that they need to follow in order to get their work done, and whether those rules are the most efficient way for them to do the work that they need to do. So I say that all to say, in closing, this is a partnership with the administration. I'm grateful to our mayor for her making it very clear that she is on board and that she is fully committed to this as well. It would make our jobs far more difficult if she was not, but she has made clear that she is. And so I see this as a very important partnership where we're all working together, rowing in the same direction for the residents of Miami-Dade County. And so I'll be bringing items that not only work with our administration, but that look to ourselves as lawmakers on how we can be more efficient, quite frankly. So thank you so much, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Cohen-Higgins, and I'll go to you, Commissioner Regalado, before we wrap up. But I couldn't have said it better. I think that efficiency is not just about dollars. Efficiency is, and yes, we do have to look at ourselves. If we create, if there are, X amount of ordinances that tie the hands of, then you know what, I would expect Namita to say it. This is the opportunity now, and I got to tell you, because we have a sunshine law, and we can only speak to each other when we're up here. But you can speak to us individually. One of the things I would like to get from the administration, because if we are going to change culture, then, or at least improve the culture and make it more efficient and effective and transparent, is you cannot be hesitant to let us know what you think, even when we're sitting as a collective body. That doesn't mean we have to agree with you, but I think, and I'll pick on the attorneys because I'm an attorney. So that way I don't feel that guilty. You know, you need to let us know exactly what you think, not what we want, what you think we want to hear, you know, and I think that's important because when you have a 13-member legislative body and an administration, sometimes, you know, not the best thing, but the most common thing is not to rock the boat because it's hard to speak together at the same time. But I have no problem, you know, with sticking back to the attorneys, with the attorneys telling me, well, we don't think that's A, legal, B, the best way to do it, or we have issue X, Y, and Z. None of us, even though I know it seems like we do, have the time to be overseeing all these departments 100% of the time. And I think it's important that in the example that Commissioner Cohen-Higgins gave, if in fact there are these contradictory, or let's call it, if that book is this big and it's a result of everything that prior commissions have created, for sure, that's one of the things we have to tackle. Absolutely. Then, you know, and it's not a criticism of anybody that was sitting here before. It's just, you know, part of making sure that we're more effective and, you know, we change for the better. And times do change. So I just want to be clear on that, you know, and I hope that as we move forward, you don't have to do it. You could do it diplomatically. You don't have to be me. But you do have to let us know what you really think, you know, and sometimes, you know, none of us should be bothered if, in fact, there's a difference of opinion. The only time we should be bothered is if that difference of opinion is disrespectful or not done with the best intent of moving our collective goals forward. So I want to be clear on that, because I would hope as we move forward with the administration that you are ready to be very straightforward. And if in fact Navada's problem is that book, bring the book, put it there and say, this is part of the problem we have. Go ahead, Ms. Denise, and we'll go to Commissioner Regalado in a second.
So thank you, Chairman. And if my mother's watching, she's going to love it because she calls me Miss Denise all the time. One of the things that the mayor has asked us to do, and it was announced in her WISE 305, was to cut red tape. And so we have already started the process of looking at what rules and regulations are impeding us from getting things done as quickly and swiftly as we all would like. We've been working well, I believe, Commissioner Regalado, with you and your team on identifying some of those items. And so we are more than ready and prepared to come back to this body in that presentation to talk about all the things that we could do to improve the way in which procurement is run and what support we could use from this body in order to make that happen. So that work is underway. It is one of the critical pillars of the WISE 305 plan, of not only reviewing our procurement rules and policies, but also reviewing contracts and other items that we may be expending money on that are no longer relevant or necessary for us to get the job done. So a lot is happening, and I'm really proud of the fact that the mayor has initiated that, and that we're very thankful that you all will be in support as we bring opportunities to cut red tape to this body.
Thank you, Carla. That way I don't get in trouble with your mom. But go ahead, Commissioner Regalado.
Thank you. I was just going to add, and I think it's important when we talk about the centralization and decentralization and kind of the things that have happened over time. You know, once upon a time, this government did not have term limits, so you could spend 4 years on an RFP. Once upon a time, you didn't have the rapid escalation of costs, so spending 4 years on an RFP was not a big deal. Once upon a time, this government spent 10 years on a charrette to determine an urban center. That's impossible now, because you would have a commissioner that would just hit the reset button on you. So when term limits came, so came the need to change some of the processes that existed here, because the elected officials that sat here for 20, 25 years. So there really was no sense of urgency. And there was no economic cost other than the loss of time. Post-COVID, what we've seen is a dramatic escalation in cost that have impacted every single RFP that we have done. So from housing to water and sewer, to public works, to transit. Every day that goes by costs us more money. So we can sit here and say we want government to work at the speed of business. I kind of find that a little trite because I don't think government could ever move the way that business does because of public hearings and because of notice and because of the requirements that force us to be transparent. But I get it. It's an Instagram talking point, and that's cool. I'm in. But beyond that, what we need to do is find how we can do this work, providing notice, providing transparency, providing opportunity, but at the same time taking into account that every day that goes by, this is costing people, the people that we represent, more money. So we have to be mindful of that when we create things and as we kind of go through the way it used to be done. And I think that the time has come to do things differently and to look and see if it's working. So in the case of IT, for example, there was a decision that IT was going to be taken out of every department and IT was going to work with the departments so that all of their requests had to go through that department. That creates a tremendous amount of complications for RER and for some other departments. So maybe for departments that work one-on-one with the public, where providing that accessibility and that transparency is one of their number one priorities, they should allow to have those people in-house. They should be able to do their own websites and to do their own work and to have those employees showing up every day instead of having to wait for someone to send you, someone, and maybe you need 2 and maybe you need 3, right? So I think one of the mistakes that have been made over the years was this idea that there was one size fits all. And I think now we're seeing that there's certain departments that could do their own procurement, like the airport, and that would probably be beneficial. They've tried it the other way. It's been very difficult for them. And there's other departments that now do so much IT that they require their own IT in-house. So those are the conversations that I think that we should have, looking department by department, because I don't think that there are blanket efficiencies, or one bullet that will solve all of the problems, that we have. And especially with these enterprise funds, I think that we have the opportunity to have them shift the way that they work and change the mindset so that they could be more transparent and they could be more efficient. And I look forward to doing that work with you, Mr. Chair, and I thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Commissioner Regalado. And let me just add 2 things, and we're going to wrap this up because we got to move on for our first meeting. Yes, absolutely. And I know where you're going. We're going to get to IT. Trust me. All right. So, and I think it's important to note that, some of the comments made by some of us, including my colleagues, of trying to be more efficient and effective and going at the speed of business is, we all understand that government can't work at the speed of business because it's obviously has different parameters. And, when I was an undergrad, the book they always had in public, and it was called Politics and Public Affairs at UM at the time, now it's called Political Science, was the case for bureaucracy. There is a reason why the government is more bureaucratic. The only problem is that when the government gets too bureaucratic and it does impact timelines, then it becomes a problem. So I want to be clear as we move forward, and I'm fine with everybody having a different, point of view, but I don't think there's any doubt, whether it's IT or whether it's procurement, that the comments that have been made, whether it's procurement at the airport or at the port or another, that our goal here has to be to continue to try to make the system be more effective and more efficient. That's why it's called efficiency and transparency. It doesn't matter if the procurement goes to the airport. We're still going to have to know about it because in the end, the decisions are going to impact this body. It's just, is there a better way to do it? I think, as you've heard, probably most of us collectively are going to think that there probably is, that maybe we should go back to the way that it used to be done. But we'll see. We'll get there. But I leave you with that. And, and we're going to get to everybody's. I know we all have, I don't want to say pet peeves, but we have areas that are important, whether it's IT, whether it's the airport. But I think all of them impact us collectively. What I would tell you, Carla, is as we move forward, I want to make it clear to everybody, not just you, that this is going to be a collective effort, and that our goal has to be, whether it's dealing with restructuring of something more effective as to how to get those departments to move forward quicker, or whether it's how to get a small business to get a permit a little bit quicker than is happening right now. Because for people, for the small business, a 6 to 8 month delay could actually put them out of business, because many times the landlord requires that they sign a lease and start paying right away. That's just the reality. So those are the things that impact people directly. And I think we need to be looking at that from that perspective. So let's wrap it up. Carla, you get to say one last thing, and then we're going to go out, because tomorrow's Valentine's Day, and if not, your mom's going to get mad at you.
Exactly, or my husband.
Or your husband.
Chairman,
even
just
worse.
for the record, I do want to clarify that our enterprise funds, the airport in particular, has a stellar procurement team. Their team focuses, they are specialized, and as you know, the investment that this commission has approved for the mayor to make is going to make our airport not only #1, but world-class. So I just don't want them to be listening to think that they don't exist. There is a very, very high-functioning, stellar procurement team that is matrixed to our strategic procurement department that we all know and love NAMIDA runs. But under Ralph Cutie's leadership, there are some exceptional procurement professionals who participate in the training that we do county-wide, and we could use your help in improving the standardization of that training and ensuring processes are streamlined and moving more effectively. But I really don't want them to be listening to think that they don't exist.
Let me go back, and we're going to finish with this. Everybody that listened to the Government Efficiency and Transparency Committee, it's not a gotcha committee. So whoever's listening and watching, and I want to be clear, Carla mentioned this, our goal here is to make our government more efficient, more effective. I hope that, this committee could...
We love NAMIDA.
We love NAMIDA. NAMIDA don't take it personally, but we're still going to express our opinions and tell you what we think we need to do. So whoever's out there, please understand that this is about we, not me. It's about us, not I. And hopefully, and I thank the attorneys for being the brunt of my examples, so today. So let's be clear on that. And I want, Carla, you to make sure that you take that back. If anybody asks you a question that's been watching this, that is not the intent. I think we passed the items, did we not? Yes, we did. We did. We did by consent. All right, so that being the case, we'll see you. I think we're going to have a lot of work to do.
Mr. Chair, are we moving these to the next BCC, or are we going to hold it for the other one? What is your pleasure?
I think we should probably hold it for the other one. The next BCC is going to be pretty tight.
Okay.
That's my opinion. But I know. We're not going to go to the speed of government. No, I'm just kidding. Well, let's hold it to the next one after that, because we unless there's something that's urgent. If there's nothing urgent, then let's move it to the other one, because next BCC is going to be a lot of conversation.